Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The Office of Personnel Management is being urged not to shut down the combined federal campaign. More than 40 Democrats penned a letter to OPM warning that ending the CFC would be disastrous for the organizations that rely on it. The letter comes as the Trump administration is signaling a possible decommission of the decades-old program. Here with more details is Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Nice to be with you, Terry.
This is big news. What is the CFC and how long has it been around?
The Combined Federal Campaign, or CFC, has been around for more than 60 years at this point. It was a program that was founded under the Reagan administration, and the idea was to essentially make this sort of central point for federal employees to be able to contribute to different charitable organizations around the world. At this point, there are more than 4,000 charities that participate in the CFC and can receive donations from federal employees through it. And at this point, since it was founded, it's raised more than $9 billion for organizations around the world. It's an annual program that's run through OPM, and a lot of federal employees do participate in this.
What happened with the CFC last year?
Well, back in August last year, there was some sort of message from the White House where they seemed like they were interested in potentially shutting down the CFC. Back last August, there was a temporary hold for the 2025 giving campaign. Ultimately, OPM, once the White House lifted this hold on it, OPM went ahead and ran the charity program later that fall. But OPM Director Scott Cooper said at the time that they only chose to continue with the 2025 CFC because at that point in the year, there were already many charities who had spent time and money preparing for that over the course of the year. So it was essentially going to be a waste of money not to run the campaign at that point. But they've generally expressed interest in, potentially shutting down the CFC. We haven't seen a final decision yet on whether it's going to be run this year. But when we look at last year's campaign, they raised about $40 million by the end of the year. It was a bit of a challenging year because of the government shutdown and other factors that were ongoing at that time.
Where are we now in consideration for this year's campaign, and the timing of that? Is the same argument perhaps going to come into play that agencies are already invested in it and maybe it's too late to stop?
It's not yet clear at this point. I haven't been able to get a final decision from OPM on whether or not they're going to continue running the program. But Trump administration officials, including OPM Director Scott Cooper, they've expressed reservations about the costs of keeping the program up and running this year and into the future. They say that generally they're evaluating changes to the CFC, and it is a possibility on the table of ending the program altogether, although, again, no final decision has been made there. But officials have said that there's administrative costs of running the program. An OPM spokesperson said it would cost $22 million in fees to be able to administer the program. So they are saying essentially it's potentially not worth it, or maybe there's some sort of alternative that they can do instead. Also, earlier this year, OPM decommissioned the online donation portal for the CFC. So that's at least a step or potentially a signal that they might not be running it this year. There's a message on the CFC website that says, quote, "This site may be taken offline at any moment." So although there's no final decision made, it seems to be heading in the direction of potentially this not continuing this year.
What points did the Democrats make in their letter to OPM?
They push back on this idea that the administrative or overhead fees are going to be an issue for the program. They say that if you look at the larger picture, CFC has actually saved the government hundreds of millions of dollars if you consider that these organizations are receiving donated funds from federal employees rather than potentially costing, federal tax dollars or federal spending or grants in some other way. So they say, even though there are administrative fees and they are supportive of potential reforms to the program. They believe that shutting it down fully would be actually very harmful to both government spending and then also to those organizations who do, in fact, rely on donations from federal employees year after year.
So what happens next, Drew? What will you be watching?
We'll be seeing whether and when OPM makes a decision to either run the 2026 campaign, potentially make more long-term decisions for the program. It seems like the main concern from the Trump administration's perspective here is really those administrative fees. So there could be some possibility that maybe if they're able to reduce those, then they may still run the program. At this point, I wasn't, again, able to get a final answer from OPM on their decision here, but it's something that we would likely see one way or the other in the next couple of months, because it does take several months of runway to be able to get the program up and running each year. So if they don't make a decision by, let's say, maybe August or September, I think that would make it difficult to run the CFC later this fall and winter.
And this isn't really any kind of referendum on the nonprofits who participate here or individuals who are making those contributions. That could all still happen outside the CFC umbrella.
That's right. It's not totally clear outside of just the simple cost part of the equation here, what, the purpose behind this. But, it's something where we haven't really seen a lot of dialogue or discussion about whether or not this is going to continue. So it's something just certainly to keep an eye on.
That's Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for sharing the story with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Terry.
You can find the full details at federalnewsnetwork.com.